itself, or it came up, even rumors. And with the technology that we have today and with the Homeland Security and so forth, it seems like it's going to be almost impossible to do anything to overthrow the elite because they are so powerful. And there are so many people that are brainwashed, Manchurian candidates, so forth, that anybody that would come up and looks like it's making progress would probably be terminated. Now, how do you suppose that we could do that here in the U.S., and what outside force, if it doesn't come from within, what outside force is available to come in and make a change?
Well, I don't think there's any outside force that we could rely on. That would be nice, but I don't see it. I think if it's going to be done, we're going to have to do it ourselves. And I do also agree with you that the odds are extremely unpleasant in terms of resisting this power structure on the ground with physical force. In other words, they have weapons that are just mind-boggling, and they have a trained military in place, and they've got all of these grunts running around in uniform that don't think about anything except following orders, and they've got that in place. And the idea that we could overcome it on the basis of force, I think, is kind of naive. But I do think that we still have the time to recapture the political system using constitutional and nonviolent methods. And now I realize that with each passing day, the opportunity for that becomes even less and less, which is why I urge everyone not to wait any longer. The time to jump into the battle is now. But my theme for anybody that's interested in Freedom Force International will be that we need to go into the power centers of society and take them over. We need to recapture the political parties and the church organizations, the labor unions, and all of the power centers of society. Take them back just the way we lost them to these collectivists and become influential. I think it's possible for us to do that. And then we finally come to the ugly question of how long do we have? How long will it take? And my honest opinion is that we cannot do it quickly. We cannot do it in the next 2 years. We cannot do it in the next election. But we can do it if we have the long view of history. And so in Freedom Force, we're trying to build a structure or a platform, a foundation, which will move into the future, into the next generation, and we can definitely, in my view, turn it back in the next generation.
Okay, let's go to St. Paul, Minnesota. Kevin, thank you for calling.
Hey, thanks, guys, for having me on.
Sure.
This really relates quite directly to the last caller. I am very afraid that we don't have the kind of time that it would require to attempt to do something over a generation, and we'd basically be battling a monster that we've already been swallowed by in any event. Is there any way that you can think of that we can have a crisis management strategy so that as things deteriorate, if they continue to deteriorate socially and economically, to try and turn that to our favor instead of to the favor of the folks that are probably controlling the deterioration already, and that they would use that crisis to move us into the very end game that they're looking for?
In all honesty, I don't see it, because in any crisis, I cannot imagine any crisis that could not be used by those that hold the power to drive the population further into this feudalist system. Because I'm going to guess 90 to 95% of the people are pretty well conditioned right now, so that no matter what crisis happens, they turn to their government to say, well, what are you going to do? We elect presidents and senators and congressmen on that issue. What are you going to do to solve this issue? We turn to government, to the very institution that has been captured by enemies of freedom. We turn to those people and say, what are you going to do to solve the problem? Well, as long as we turn to those people, we know what they're going to do. They're going to hammer us further into feudalism. So I don't think right now, with the present awareness of the American people, that any crisis is going to be to our benefit. I think any crisis can be and will be used by these totalitarians to drive us further into feudalism.
One more call or two. Let's go to Medford, Oregon. Robert. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, George, thanks for taking the call tonight. Great program as usual. There's a big problem that seems to be in the banking system today. There's no money in the bank. I'm telling you. If your listeners are even remotely lucky enough to have $5,000 in the bank, try to go down to the bank tomorrow and withdraw that money, because you're going to be quite surprised. The banks don't have the money. It takes like 2 to 3 days to order the money. And if there's going to be a run on any of the banks here in the near future, it's going to be chaotic almost immediately.
What do you think of that? $5,000? You can't go and get. Sure, you can, can't you? What do you think, Ed?
Oh, I think that the average bank would be able to take care of a $5,000 withdrawal with not too much problem. But if you go out there and want to withdraw $100,000, they'd say, "I'm sorry, we can't do that." And if you go in the late afternoon, they may not be able to give you $10,000 because it depends on how much cash they have in their vault. But they do move cash around from bank to bank, and they can always get on the phone and get some more the next day. And but nevertheless, I agree pretty much with what your caller is saying, is that if a great number of people went to the bank at once and wanted their money, then under those conditions, you might not even get $5,000 out.
Oh, that's pretty deadly, isn't it? Ed, tell us about the book. Where do you get it? The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Well, we'd like to have you come directly to our website, George. That's the Reality Zone, realityzone.com. That's the best place because, first of all, it's our home. And you can find a lot of other things there as well. We have about 100 different books and audio recordings and video recordings on this and related topics. And then for those who want to become active and try and turn this system around and who have the long view of history, then we'd like to invite people to come to our other website, which is freedomforceinternational.org, and be prepared to spend a lot of time there, and I think you'll like what you find.
All right, very good. Thank you so much, G. Edward Griffin, the Creature from Jekyll Island. When I come back, the greatest storyteller ever born, Lionel Fenthorpe.